And our first story, this will be good for many parents. And President Akufo-Addo has reiterated government's commitment to advance the cause of teachers through the provision of incentives. And this are expected to motivate their efforts in the classroom.
According to President Akufo-Addo, the welfare of teachers is at the heart of his government's delivery of quality education. He made the disclosure at the 60th anniversary celebration of the Okropong Senior High School in Okropong.
A well-trained, confident, and contented teacher is at the heart of my government's delivery of quality education. The views of teachers will be sought on education policy, innovation, and implementation. Their professional development and needs will be treated with respect, and we shall ensure the teachers' salaries and allowances are paid regularly and on time. Teacher trainee allowances, as already announced by the Vice President, will be restored in the first budget of the Akufo-Addo presidency, scheduled for next month. In addition to these, my administration will also focus on the provision of incentives that will motivate teachers and reward their hard work in the classroom. Government will collaborate with GNAT, NAGRAT, and other teaching associations to facilitate an affordable housing scheme for teachers. Teachers will be afforded the opportunity to upgrade their qualifications, and we will aim to make the teaching profession, once again, a proud choice.
The Ghana Institution of Surveyors has backed calls for an independent inquiry into matters relating to the construction costs of the proposed residential building for the Vice President taking place in Accra.
In a statement signed by its president, Emmanuel Tetemate, the group expressed its readiness to assist any entity appointed with expertise to objectively appraise the project. Here's a News Desk report.
Ghana Institution of Surveyors has assured all Ghanaians that as a professional body, the matter would be followed to its logical conclusion, as the ethical dimension of the conduct and attitudes towards practices must be upheld. According to the statement, professional surveyors are enjoined to observe the highest standards of ethics during the execution of duties and avoid corruption, fraudulent, collusive, coercive, and obstructive and prohibited practices, as well as avoid conflicting activities. The Ghana Institute of Surveyors President Emmanuel Tetemate suggested that the institution could do a procurement or a technical audit of the Vice President's house and advice. The group indicated that they will respond to the outcomes of the investigations, whether they are undertaken by their institution or any other body mandated to do so.
And in a related development, legal practitioner and former NDC MP for North Dai, George Lowe, insists that the Mahama-led administration did not set to build a $40 million house.
To the best of my knowledge, the NDC government has not sanctioned 13.9 million to be spent on the building. In actual fact, what I know is that the building, the initial building, was not 13, and that is what Asedu Peter seemed to have been talking about. But there were variations as time went on. There were things that were added on here and there.
Yeah.
And at a point, my understanding is that even when the figures got beyond some point, the Vice President was very uncomfortable. He stopped a further.
But we've already paid $8 million.
Well, we didn't pay $8 million. My best of my knowledge, the information I have, we paid 5.9. That was a ceiling that.
But if you look at the figures, if you look at the
saying
documents,
that what we have.
But for even $5.9 million is outrageously high for a house.
No, please, no.
Why?
Please, no. You see, when you are talking about state institutions, state installations, don't treat it as though it is my little residence in Amania. Instead of us discussing and national security installation at the vice president's residence in the public domain. I would have thought that a small team should have been put together quietly, to assess the thing and decide that, look, we are cutting at a point. We don't want this one. Take this one out. Take this one out. After all, they are in power. So it's not fair for somebody to assume that we have come and then we're prepared to pay 13.9 for that building. This is not true. Like I keep saying, the original amount was nowhere near that.
Well, on that same program, Newsfile on Saturday, governance analyst Professor Ransford Jampo described as waste effort to rebuild structures anew for public officials when there are already existing buildings.
I think the whole idea of putting up a new place for the vice president is absolutely unnecessary.
Why?
Don't vice presidents in Ghana have places that they live? Don't we? We are always having the penchant of building, doing things anew. It's a misplaced priority. I'm sure the Flagstaff House should have a place for vice presidents. The Flagstaff House should have a place for presidents and all that. So the practice of, I'm told President Mahama was inhabiting his place that I'm sure he's vacated now as a vice president. If he's not there again, why can't the sitting vice president go there? Why are we always wasting money simply because it will be given out as contract and people will be able to have their cuts? I think the battle against corruption, we are not winning as a nation. And if a new government is in place and it is interested in fighting corruption, it must look at all these areas. The whole idea of building a new place for our vice president is a misplaced priority.
And some of you were born there, grew up there indeed, and also probably visited the area or might have heard of it. And we're talking just about Chorkor.
Well, have you ever wondered the meaning of Chorkor? Here's Faustina Safo shining the spotlight on the community along the beaches of the capital.
Chorkor is a well-known fishing community in the south of Accra, surrounded by Dansoman, Mamprobi, and the Atlantic Ocean. Chorkor is considered one of the most deprived communities in Ghana's capital. Survival here is a battle of the fittest. The densely populated area lacks basic social amenities, from toilets to bathhouses, drains, and schools. The Chemu Lagoon, which has now become a refuse dumping site where children openly defecate, was once upon a time a major trading route and a source of livelihood to the local fishermen. I've come to meet Jeremiah Kabotet. He is in his late 60s and he has lived here all his life. He tells me about the good old days in Chorkor.
Growing up here is quite interesting because we have some of these mission schools around. We have the Methodist school, the Presbyterian schools, then Healing Hand of God School, set up by what we call charismatic churches. They all came in to assist in education. So a lot of people joined the education spree.
Once upon a time, Chorkor was a bushy area marked by the then colonial rulers as a green belt, restricting people from building in the area. But over the years, people began encroaching on the land. Jeremiah Tete lives in one of the first buildings erected in the area.
These houses were estates built by the colonial administration at the time of Sir Gordon Gorgisberg, who was then the governor of the Gold Coast. So they built these houses. After the World War II, there was a earth tremor, or what we call earthquake. It devastated so many houses in Accra Central and certain areas. So the colonial government at that time has to make some restitution for all these displaced people, create a habitat for them. So they built these houses.
So how did the name Chorkor come about?
It is called Chorkor because people had to cross a stream from Kolegono to this area, which has then become a newly created area, which is now under development. So the name came about when people had to cross that stream ago. So they were saying Chwanako, Chwako or Chwanako. Cross the stream and go beyond the stream to this new settlement. So when there were so many hordes of people also coming in to create settlements in these areas, they're going on, Ingboya, me ya Choko, me ya Chwanako. No, Chwanako became Choko.
For News Generation, Faustina Safo.
Interesting place, as it is, Chorkor. And that'll be it for the news this morning. But we have a lot more news updates when we review the newspapers and look at the online portal stories. Mind you, in the United States of America, they held the Grammys. Adele was a big winner, but also the late David Bowie. For many of you who love hard and soft rock, you may have heard of him. And he also won big posthumously. But alongside, they had the British version of the Oscars, the BAFTAs, and there were big winners there. We'll update you.
All right, stay with us. The newspapers up next.